Jessica had babysat for the Montgomerys plenty of times before. It was always easy money. Order pizza, put the kids to bed, and binge-watch TV until the parents came home. Lucy, 8, and Tommy, 5, were sweet, well-behaved kids, and their house, nestled in a quiet suburban neighborhood, felt safe. Tonight was supposed to be no different. Mrs. Montgomery kissed the kids goodnight and gave Jessica the usual instructions: snacks in the fridge, bedtime by 9, emergency numbers on the fridge. Mr. Montgomery handed her a crisp 20, winking, "For pizza, order extra cheese for Tommy." Jessica smiled, nodded, and watched as they left, their car pulling out of the driveway and disappearing into the night. The house felt peaceful, the hum of the television filling the living room as the kids cuddled under blankets, watching cartoons. By 9:30, they were both tucked in, their soft breathing a comforting rhythm. Jessica grabbed a soda from the fridge and settled onto the couch, flicking through channels. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Mr. Montgomery. "Hey, Jessica," he said. "Sorry for the late notice, but we're running a little behind. We should be home by midnight." "No problem," Jessica replied, relieved. More time to finish her movie. "Take your time." She hung up and tossed the phone aside, but barely a minute later, it rang again. Same number. Frowning, she answered. This time, it wasn't Mr. Montgomery. A child's voice, trembling and hoarse, whispered through the line, "Please, help me. I'm in the dark. I'm scared." Jessica bolted upright, the soda can slipping from her hand and spilling onto the carpet. "Lucy? Tommy?" she stammered, rushing up the stairs 2 at a time. Both kids were fast asleep. Their rooms were undisturbed. Jessica stood in the dark hallway, heart pounding against her ribs. Maybe it was a prank, or maybe she imagined it. But deep down, she knew what she heard. Jessica tried to shake the unease and went back downstairs. She dried the spilled soda with a paper towel, her ears straining for any noise from upstairs. The house was silent, but the feeling of being watched clung to her like a second skin. Her phone buzzed again. The same number. Jessica hesitated before answering. "Hello?" The same voice, crying, frantic. "She's coming. Please, you have to hide me." Jessica felt the blood drain from her face. Her hands trembled as she rushed back upstairs, her throat tight with fear. She burst into Lucy's room, flipping on the light. Lucy stirred, blinking sleepily. "Jess? What's wrong?" Jessica forced a smile, brushing her hair back. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just checking in." Lucy mumbled something, rolling over, but just before she drifted off again, she murmured, "She's in the closet." Jessica's stomach dropped. Turning slowly, she faced the closet door. It loomed in the dim light, half open. Her feet felt like lead as she walked to it, hands trembling as she reached for the knob. Slowly, she pulled the door open. Nothing. Just rows of stuffed animals, clothes, and shoes neatly lined up. Jessica let out a shaky laugh, brushing it off as an overactive imagination. But then her phone buzzed again. "You shouldn't have come upstairs, Jess." Her breath caught in her throat. She spun around, checking every dark corner of the room. She grabbed her phone and dialed the Montgomerys' number. Straight to voicemail. Jessica locked all the doors and windows, making sure everything was secure. Her skin crawled with the feeling that something was wrong, something she couldn't see. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, upstairs. Her stomach clenched. She crept toward the staircase, holding her breath, gripping a kitchen knife from the counter. The footsteps stopped. Jessica strained to listen, sweat beading on her forehead. She climbed the stairs 1 step at a time, pausing at the top. The hallway stretched before her, too dark, too silent. Her phone rang again. She jumped, fumbling to answer. This time, it wasn't a child's voice. It was hers. "You can't stop this, Jessica." Jessica dropped the phone, her pulse roaring in her ears. A sudden creak from behind made her spin. The closet door in Lucy's room was open, wide open. She rushed inside, pulling Lucy and Tommy from their beds, ignoring their sleepy protests. She carried Tommy and held Lucy's hand tight, rushing down the stairs. Her heart hammered as she fumbled to open the front door. Just as she reached for the handle, headlights flooded the driveway. The Montgomerys were home. Mrs. Montgomery stepped out of the car, frowning. "Jessica, what's going on?" Jessica stammered. The calls, you called me, but it wasn't you, and I heard something. Mrs. Montgomery's expression turned cold. Jessica, we never called you. Jessica stared at them, her mind racing. She yanked her phone from her pocket and pulled up her call log, her fingers shaking. Nothing? No missed calls? No history? Check again, she pleaded, handing them the phone. Mr. Montgomery shook his head. Jess, you okay? Jessica swallowed hard, nodding. She glanced up at the house, her heart sinking. Something had been inside with her tonight, and it wasn't gone. But the Montgomerys wouldn't believe her. Jessica never returned to babysit after that night. She tried to convince herself it was a prank, a bad dream. She deleted the call log, but the unease never left her. A week later, she saw a news report. Lucy Montgomery was missing. No forced entry, no sign of struggle. She vanished from her bedroom without a trace. Jessica felt sick. The voice on the phone echoed in her head. Please, help me. I'm in the dark. Her hands trembled as she checked her phone. And there it was, a new message, the same number. You couldn't save her. Jessica dropped the phone, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She rushed to the window and peeked through the blinds. A shadow stood across the street, watching, waiting. Jessica shut the blinds tight, but she knew. It wasn't over, he was still out there, and he wasn't done yet.